This is Carolina Mike, your host for SharePoint in 60 seconds. This is the show where you can get the information you need right up front in the first 60 seconds. And then if you really want to stick around and see all the gory details, then we're happy to show you that as well. So we'll kick it off. We'll just talk it out, and then we'll show it. Today, we're going to show you how to build an org-wide team in Microsoft Teams. Let's get it. First, you're going to go to the lower left-hand part of the screen, click on Join and Create Team. Then you're going to click on Create Team. Then you're going to click on Build from Scratch. Then you're going to click on Org-wide Team. Then you're going to name your team. Then you're going to describe your team. Then you're going to create your team. Any questions? There you go. So now let's actually walk through those steps. We'll walk through the steps. We'll also talk about some practices. I call them practices because that's what they are. They're practices. If it works well for you, then it's a best practice for you, but it might not work well for the next person. Quick review, and then we'll give the viewers a chance to send in their queries. So if you want to go ahead and start sending in some now, that'd be great in the chat, and I will do my best to respond to them before we close out the show. So let's get that demo underway. Like I said at the beginning, we're going to click on Join or Create Team. Boom. Click on Create Team. Bam. Build from scratch. Whoop, whoop. And then Org-wide Team. Now you're in there. Now I'm not going to fill up my tenant with a bunch of org-wide teams. I've already got 3. However, I will talk to you about a quick naming convention. So here's one of those practices, is to have a naming convention of some sort, whether you use Azure Active Directory with an automated prefix, suffix, all that jazz. You can do all that fancy stuff, or you could have something that you type in manually that lets you know what type of team or Microsoft 365 group that you're dealing with. In this case, we're going to go with org. So I know anytime that I run across a team that starts org, I know it's an org-wide team. Bam. You're going to describe it. Always give a description. It helps, even if it's something simple. That way you know what's going on in that team. All right. Now let's talk about some of the practices, other practices. You've got an org-wide team, so you're probably going to fall on one end of the spectrum. Either you are fine with the wild, wild west, or you really want to restrict things down so that it's more curated. So I'll show you each end of the spectrum. Let's start with the most restrictive. Well, actually, let's start with the least restrictive, since it's already that way by default. Since we have an org-wide team, we want to go in and take a look at the settings for that team, and we're going to look at the member permissions. So here we go. We've got everything checked off. They can do a whole bunch of stuff. This is the least restrictive, and at mention, so they can blow everybody up. They can blow the team up with all sorts of notifications and banners and bells and whistles. People will be just loving that. Probably not. And then, yeah, there you go. So that's your deal there. Then if you go into your general channel, there is a feature called moderation where you can sort of slow down all of the postings that can happen. But let's go ahead and click on general here, and we'll take a look at what happens when we manage the channel. Notice that we can choose whether or not anyone can post or just the owners. And so the moderation is by default turned on in the general channel. So here, I'll show you what I mean here. There's no option to turn on or off moderation because it's baked into general. But if I go and I fire off a new channel, could call it moderation test. Yes, I know I'm skipping the description. Yeah, it's okay. All right, add. So now we can go and we can manage that channel and see we can turn moderation on or off. It's just on the general channel for an org-wide team. And then you can go ahead and select, deselect. And so now let's go ahead and flip it back and go most restrictive. So when it comes to your channels for that org-wide team, if you want to be very restrictive, you will just say, well, you could say don't allow them to reply, but you want them to reply to a post that you make most likely. But we don't need the bots, and we don't need the connectors, okay? Now let's go back up to the team level and manage it here. Let's go ahead and take away some of these permissions. We'll just take all these away. I'm not going to let you do any of that stuff. Nope, nope, nope. And then we're also not going to let you just inundate people with your @mentions and all that jazz. So we're turning that off. There you go. Pretty simple, pretty easy. So quick review. If you want to create an org-wide team, you just go in, join or create team, build from scratch, org-wide team, and then you're going to name it and describe it, create the team. Those are the steps that you need to do. In a future video, we will talk about how to actually start with a regular team, test it out, build it out the way you want it to be, and then launch it as an org-wide team. That's a real fun thing to cover as well. All right, well, I think it's time to go ahead and bring it home. Oh, there's one more thing I wanted to mention. I think when this first rolled out, the org-wide team, first of all, you can only have 5 in a tenant. The other thing is the limit is 5,000, but that is increasing. That is increasing to 10,000 users November this year. So look out for that. Alrighty. So with that, I'm going to hop off and say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. We appreciate everything everyone adds to the community, and ultimately we want to help people get the answers to the questions that they have in SharePoint and Microsoft 365 type stuff. So this is Carolina Mike, your host for SharePoint in 60 Seconds, saying take it easy and do your best to try and smile as much as possible. Hope you have a good rest of the day.